On Tuesday, I went through the main Kindred class, the new vampire-themed Vampire the Masquerade. That's too many uses of the word vampire class from Ghostfire Gaming, now in D&D. Everybody breathe. And today we're going to go through the rest of the stuff in the book, which includes some origin feats, some of which are pretty cool, some equipment, some of which is a little perplexing, and even an adventure, I believe, and a bestiary too. If that sounds interesting to you, then come along with me. My name is Jason. This is the Dungeon Himbo, where I do third-party reviews and builds and stuff. I am trying to make Alucard from Castlevania using the Kindred class, but it doesn't really fit, so I might do someone else instead. My struggles are endless. Any of that sounds good to you? Like and subscribe. I'm so good at this. For now, let's get into the video proper, shall we? Should be a lot shorter than Tuesdays, worry not. Unless you like the long videos, in which case I guess worry some. Anyway. Backgrounds. We have the Ghoul, Strength, Dexterity, and Charisma. You get skill proficiency with Perception and Survival, and the feat Nocturnal. We'll go over the feats after we've gone through the backgrounds. Yeah, once you learned about the Kindred in the Dark World, they drew you in, and somehow you partook of their blood. It filled you with unholy vigour, gaining strength, speed, and longevity, but with this power came risk, as you could not drink from the same Kindred thrice, or you would find yourself bound to an undead master. Ritualist is Intelligence, Wisdom, and Charisma. It gives you the Magic Initiate Wizard feat, and both Arcana and History, along with Alchemist's Supplies. That's a pretty good one. You pursue knowledge of the arcane and the mystical. You may have belonged to a cult of Arcanists, a sect of priests, or a conclave of magi. Nailing pronunciations. See, I can't even say pronunciations. Goodness me. It is quite warm again. Incantations, tinctures, and spellcraft will open your eyes to the world of darkness, and you wield a sliver of its power. Scholar of the Hunt gives you Constitution, Intelligence, or Wisdom. You get the well-read feat, and you get Arcana and Investigation on one kind of gaming set. You were a long-time student of the supernatural, learning about their nature and the dangers they pose through the tomes and stories of monster hunters. Your experience with these hunters likely tainted your opinion of the Kindred and other things that go bump in the night. Thrall! I expect this one to be quite popular because of the origin feat it gives you. We'll get to that, as I have said. Con, Wisdom, Charisma, which is a solid suite. It's basically good for a lot of classes, because Con plus two of the main two mental stats is very flexible. Now you get Athletics and Medicine, which is an interesting combo. Get one gaming set or musical instrument. You know the Kindred all too well, living as one of their servants and a ready food source. You may have been a willing donor who opened your veins to them in exchange for the rush of interacting with immortality, or in the hopes of being made immortal yourself. Or perhaps you were a victim cowed into service and enthralled. However it came to pass, you know the cost and cause of their hunger and how to sate it. Everyone knows how to sate hunger, right, though? You just eat. Weird sentence. Touchstone is the final one. Con, Intelligence, and Charisma, again pretty solid, and this gives you the protected feat, Persuasion and Survival, and one kind of artisan's tools. You are, and possibly always have been, important to a Kindred. An immortal has guarded you, likely from the shadows, for a long time. You have served as its emotional tether by reminding it that someone important still lives in the mortal world, allowing the Kindred to maintain its moral centre and stave off the beast. You didn't cross paths with the world of the Kindred, they steered you there. That's a cool paragraph. Let's look at the feats, shall we? Healthy is the first one. That's way too enthusiastic. These are all origin feats. Obviously, you can get them via the backgrounds, but probably more importantly, you can get them if you start as a human or as the half-orc from the Exploring Eberron book as well. And that's kind of where I expect these to come up the most, unless you are doing a Kindred-themed campaign. Anyway, healthy. The first time you would spend a hit point die after completing a short or long rest, you gain the benefit of spending the die, but do not spend it, which is cool, but that's not why I think people will take it. The reason I think people will take it is because it gives you saving throw proficiency. You choose one in which you lack proficiency and you gain proficiency with it. This is a fantastically strong way to get access to Constitution saves, usually, on any spellcaster, without having to multiclass. That's pretty good. Starting as a human and going for something like Alert, if that's what you want to go for as your main back feat, and then taking Healthy as a wizard or something to get con proficiency, is going to be really, really strong, so that's very cool. Nocturnal. You may have spent formative years in the darkness of night. You gain the following benefits. You get dark vision of 60. If you already have it, it goes up by 30. And whenever you make a stealth check while in dim or light or darkness, you can treat a roll of 9 or lower on the d20 as a 10. You get real good at sneaking. That's pretty cool. Protected. This one looks like it's going to be like lucky, but it's not. You do gain a number of luck points equal to your proficiency bonus, but you can't spend them on just re-rolling stuff. Instead, when you make a d20 test and the roll is 9 or lower on the d20, you can spend a luck point to re-roll it and must accept the second result, so not quite the same. And also, when you are reduced to 0 hit points but not killed outright, you can spend 1 luck point to drop to 1 hit point instead. That last one's pretty strong, because you could theoretically keep doing that, and it doesn't cost an action. So you can just be a bit harder to finish off, which is kind of nifty. Thin-blooded, which can be chosen in place of any origin feat. You have a portion of the vampire's blood flowing in your veins. You are thin blood, often destined for a place among the clanless. You gain the following benefits. This basically means you're a little bit kindred. As you can see from the preposterous wall of text, you feed on the blood of other creatures. Okay, so this gives you the ability, this gives you some of the kindred abilities. You get 2d6 feed dice. If you get a 6, you get a blood point. That's that, right? Same rules as the kindred. I'm not going over them all again. If you want to find them out, please watch my other video. If you feed from a willing creature, they can expend a hit point die instead of you rolling damage. If they have no more hit point die, they just take necrotic damage. Each creature has a number of times you can feed from them. They have to have blood. Fairly normal. You ignore the kindred class prerequisite for choosing kindred feats, but you can't gain levels in the kindred class. So if you take this, you cannot be a kindred, which is really interesting. Actually, I quite like that. You get a number of blood points equal to your proficiency bonus -1. You get the ability to cast spells using your charisma, but your spells require no verbal or somatic components. I assume that just means with the kindred spells. You get vulnerability to fire and radiant damage, and if you're attacked with a wooden weapon that deals piercing damage and you're reduced to 0 hit points, the attack roll is always a critical hit, and you're sick through the heart and have the paralyzed condition until the weapon is removed. Okay, so it basically gives you access to a massive number of other feats without you actually having to be a kindred, and arguably with far fewer downsides. You're not locked into just eating blood points, which means you can eat normal food. You're not taking damage just by being out in the sun, which is interesting. And you do have some of the weaknesses, but not all of them, which is intriguing, right? Some of the kindred feats can be pretty powerful, but obviously spending a normal feat on them instead can make it a little bit harder to justify, but it's interesting. I don't know how good it is. The final origin feat is well read. When you roll initiative, you can recall lore about a creature you can see within 30 feet of yourself. You know one immunity, resistance, vulnerability, or trait of that creature. You decide when you use this ability. When you roll a 1 on an arcana or history check, you can re-roll the dice, but you must use the new roll. And if you succeed on an arcana or history, you learn additional lore. The GM has a final say on what you learn, but it could be anything your GM says. So you might get a little bit extra from the lore stuff. I quite like that. As a feat, that's pretty cool. We then got kindred feats, which I covered yesterday, and I'm not reading all of those again, but I do want to go over the epic boon one, the boon of generations. This is just for the kindred class, which I did not realize on Tuesday when I was talking about it. It allows you to boost any ability of your choice by 1. When you roll a feed die for your feed feature, you can re-roll the dice if it's a 1, and you must use the new roll, which makes your feeds more consistent. And you also get a blood point increase of 5, which makes it a lot easier to use a lot of your cool features. Those are the feats. It's a real shame we're not getting... I would have loved to have seen more general feats, to be honest, and spells as well. I really like Ghostfire's general design philosophy. But hey ho. Let's talk about the new equipment. Weapon, wooden stake. These are specifically made to deal damage to kindred. They are 1d4 piercing, they have the light and the nick property, and they weigh 1 pound and cost 1 silver piece. Also, if you're within 5 feet of a kindred with a restrained or unconscious condition, you can take an action to make a medicine check. On a successful check, the wooden stake is driven into the heart of the kindred. That's pretty cool. So, this is a real shame. Shillelagh as a spell allows you to target a club or a quarterstaff and states that you're targeting the wood in those weapons to imbue them with your magical power. However, it does specify those 2 weapons specifically, which means it's not just any wooden weapon, which means that the wooden weapons in this supplement cannot be used for Shillelagh, which is a shame. That would have been kind of cool, probably kind of broken, but when has that ever stopped me? Anyway, silver weapons. Let's see. When you make an attack roll with a silver weapon or a piece of ammunition, it takes a cumulative -1 penalty to attack rolls. Weapon or ammo is destroyed. If it reaches -5, the penalty can be removed by casting mending on it, or making a dexterity check using smith's tools. Okay, these are just all the normal weapons, but with the word silver after them. Okay, good to know. Good for hunting things, obviously, but that's that. And then wooden weapons. Wooden weapons are destroyed if you roll a 1 on them. And wooden ammunition is destroyed after hitting or missing a target. Okay. These again are just a wooden rapier is deeply funny to me. The bludgeoning weapons make sense to me, wood-wise, right? I get that, but slashing and piercing weapons are just kind of funny. Although I see these are all piercing weapons. So there you go. Okay. I don't need to go over much here, right? It's just a bunch of piercing weapons. So it's good if you want to do piercing stuff. Yeah, no bludgeoning weapons for anybody involved. It's niche to the Kindred stuff. We get it, right? Equipment. Hunter's kit. Tooltip not found. I love tooltip not found. It's my favourite kind of tooltip. Sometimes called a vampire hunting kit, the hunter's kit contains the following items: 6 candles, a crowbar, a holy symbol, 2 vials of holy water. Okay, so this is just like an adventurer's kit, but not. Leather undervest. The leather undervest can be worn with any type of armor. The undervest allows a max dexterity modifier of 3 when you're hit by an attack while wearing this. Any piercing damage dealt to you by the attack is reduced by 2. In addition, any intelligence medicine checks to stake you in the heart have disadvantage. That's pretty solid. You can obviously get a lot more from your medium armor with this. And your heavy armor? No, you don't add your dex. Never mind. And then the magic items are the Kindred Vitae, which is blood of a kindred, which you can, blood point into if you are a kindred and then give to someone else. This allows them to increase their strength by 2 and their speed by 5 for a week. They get 2d6 temp health and they ignore a year of aging, which is cool. But also, they are more susceptible to the powers of the end. For the period of 1 year, you have disadvantage on saving throws against being charmed and frightened. That's all of that. Look at this guy. He's got great teeth. This is one last goodbye. This is the... I do like the art. I didn't talk about the art Tuesday. This is the... Good lord. This is the adventure, basically. It has additional rules to mimic Vampire the Masquerade. You get narrated feeding, which tells you how feeding generally goes, and the feeding style as well. That's pretty cool. Yeah, this is a full adventure for some characters, which is cool. So if you've been looking for an adventure to test the Kindred in, this is your chance to do so. It talks about the Masquerade level and how to run it. It has a big scary dude at the end of it. It's good stuff, basically. That's it. This really was a short video, wasn't it? That's a nice change of pace. I haven't run the adventure. I find adventures extraordinarily hard to review because I think you sort of need to run them to make a review justifiable, and I don't have time to run whole adventures in any amount of time. Life is very busy. So yeah, that was a nice quick video, wasn't it? So I guess I should do like closing thoughts for the Bound by Blood booklet as a whole. The Kindred class is extraordinarily messy on purpose, I think, and I don't dislike that, nor do I dislike the complexity. The subclasses are interesting. The Kindred Feats are really interesting. The levels of which you can reach are quite preposterous. I did a Bruja build when I was theorizing about what I could do for Alucard, and I had pretty much a max strength of 30 by level 20. Which is not something you can do with other ones. This involved temporary boosts and stacking feats in a specific way to get to 30. All of it rules as written. I'm not mucking around with anything I shouldn't be. It's all rules as written and rules as intended as well, I believe. So that's pretty cool. You can get some pretty decent specs. The extra attack you get from the beast ability is complicated because you have to use your bonus action to activate it, which is frustrating if you're doing anything else with your bonus action, which you normally want to be doing. So it doesn't really have extra attack, but it does hit incredibly hard. And if you can get a creature grappled and you can chomp down on them, you're doing a lot of extra damage with your bonus action anyway, once you get the ability to use that. So I think the Kindred is maybe quite well balanced. It might be erring on the side of having too many downsides, but I think it's quite tricky to know for certain without seeing 1 or 2 in play, ultimately, which is the same feelings I have with other third-party classes. It's not overtly strong. It can get some really strong features. Level 20 capstone is cool because you get to add 8 stats in total, but that's something we already get with the monk and the barbarian as well. You've then got the Kindred Feats, which is just for the Kindred, so they're not much use if you're not playing the class specifically. And the Origin Feats, which are pretty nifty. There are some pretty powerful choices in there. Like I said, the healthy one is very tempting for a lot of builds. The adventure is good if you want to go through that style of adventure and you want to run a whole group of kindred through it. I think that's going to be a lot of fun. But there's not much outside of that, right? Let's take other classes as examples, right? The Gunslinger, for example, comes with a bunch of new spells and feats and weapons and things like that. This does come with weapons, Bound by Blood, but the weapons are weapons you already have, but they're with downsides this time, which fits the Vampire the Masquerade world, but not necessarily the D&D world. And I think that's probably what's worth keeping in mind with this. If you're looking at buying this and you've yet to do so, and it's for any reason other than to have access to the Kindred, which I do think should be your main reason to buy this. There's really no reason to get this if you're not interested in playing the Kindred class, or your players aren't interested in playing it. Don't buy it. I don't think it's worth it, because it's not. The adventure's not worth buying the whole book for. It's just not. Even without having played through it, I can tell you it's not worth it. As long as you want access to the class, however, I do think it's probably a relatively good investment. It's a shame it's priced a little bit higher than, I say a little bit, I think it's twice as much as the Gunslinger and the Pugilist were. And as a huge fan of Ghostfire, I am a little saddened by the fact that it's not as... I don't think it's as interesting as the Monster Hunter, but I think that's fine. It doesn't have to be. The depth of mechanical complexity you're getting with it is fun. So yeah, I am happy that I have this because I like doing theorycraft builds and building characters and stuff, right? And I would like to play a Kindred. I think the downsides would be fun to roleplay. You can mitigate some of them with a Kindred Feats or with an umbrella. And I do think that's cool. And it's not just vampires you can roleplay with this either. You could go for like a ghoul from like Tokyo Ghoul. You could do zombies. You could do all sorts of things. Anything where there's like that inner beast fits with the Kindred mechanics quite well, which is nice. I think that's it. I think those are all my thoughts. Let me know what you think. I want to know if you bought it, if you're going to buy it, what your thoughts are, and so on. But that's it for me. I hope you enjoyed this. I hope that you're well. And you continue to do well. I hope that you are having a good week and you have a good weekend ahead of you. I will be back on Monday with a build of some kind. I'm going to try and do a Kindred build. I just need to find the right character for it and then rejig the build itself. Because Alucard doesn't fit. He doesn't go into a bestial rage when he's hungry, so he's not a good character for it, which is very funny. A card from Helsing, I think that would be fine, but I wanted to go for the Castlevania one. But yeah, that's it. Check out some of my other videos, and I will see you whenever it is I next see you. Goodbye.